Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, Grace. My name is Crystal Hatch, and I'd like to thank you for joining me again today. For the past few weeks, we've been talking about what kind of soil are you and the effects of contaminated soil. Well, now that our soil has been cleansed, decontaminated, this is the vision or the example that I got from the Lord. Have you ever walked along the beach and when the waves come up on the shore where the sand is, sometimes it brings seaweed and shells and rocks, pebbles, things like that. Well, if you take a strainer and you take a big scoop of that sand and you shift it after it's dry, because it's easier to shift when it's dry, but the residue, all the contaminants, all the junk is left. And on the bottom, all of the pure refined sand is left, which is light and fluffy. It'll even change color. Well, that's what's happened to us as we allowed the Lord to get rid of our junk, our baggage. We are now clean and soft, and it feels a lot better to walk on versus when all that junk was in there. Well, when we have been cleansed, spirit, soul, and body, then we are able to be used by the Lord. So take, for instance, if a person is full of anger. Well, it's kind of hard to be nice to a person if you're filled with anger, resentment, bitterness. You won't talk nice. You'll kind of yell at them or be very stern and may even cause offense. Well, when we get rid of that anger and we allow peace to come into our heart, then we find ourselves talking to someone more kindly, with patience and a softer tone, not as harsh. And that's a great example of the Lord. When we talk at a calmer tone, people will want to listen to us more versus if we're always yelling and being very stern with people, then they may tend to turn us off and not really want to hear what it is that we have to say. So now that our soil has been cleansed and filtered, it's easier for us to relate to people. And we are the example that people see of Christ. So hopefully we can tell when someone is a follower of Christ, a Christian, versus those who are not. And with that, people are easier to witness to. And so as we go into this next series, the second part of what the Lord gave me at the beginning of the year, it's really how we show compassion towards others. Well, it's really hard to show compassion towards others if we're not very compassionate. And usually a lot of people aren't compassionate because they still have that junk, the selfishness, the anger, the bitterness, the hurt, the unforgiveness, the fear. And Christ doesn't have any of those characteristics. So when we focus to be more like him, then people will see him more in us, right? In 2019, so 2 years ago, I had asked the Lord, what is it that you want in my life, that you want for me, from me, and that kind of thing. And he had me to make a vision board. Well, on this vision board, I have a trifold. And on one side, it shows physically what I want, what my desires are for me physically. So I have total health, nothing missing, nothing broken, whole and healed of soul wounds. So we can check that one off, even though it's 2 years later, that my eyesight be totally restored. Before the age of 40, I could see 50 miles down the road, and now I need a little help with the glasses. On the other side, financially, I have to be totally debt-free to have $500,000 in the bank to be able to travel, to pay off homes, pay off cars, not just for ourselves, but for others as well, to sell millions of books, both for me and my husband. But in the middle, I have spiritually. And on there, in the middle, I have this heart that I cut out from Covenant Church magazine that comes out every month. And on it, it's like Jesus Christ. And it has all these characteristics of Christ. And then I have be more like Jesus, led by the Spirit, a keeper of my word, always patient, never resentful, always kind, being prepared, fearless, walk in forgiveness, walk in wisdom. And when the Lord gave me that, I'm like, that's a tall order. And so even though that was 2 years ago, the Lord is still working with me on this vision board. So take, for instance, in 2020, I was like, okay, Lord, what do you have for me this year? And he's like, we're still working on last year's. So it doesn't really matter about the time in how long it takes before I can check things off or put a date next to it. But it's really about completing the mission, which is to be more like Jesus, less of me, to be the shining example of his love, his mercy, his grace, his kindness. And as I'm refining myself, as the Lord is refining me, then I'm going to become more and more like him. That's all we have time for today. Until tomorrow, make today amazing.